there was an earlier version of this. What was that, and then how much did it change when it became Lily?
Oh, yeah. Well, the earlier version, I'll just tell you and nobody else. I was actually thinking of Harvey Keitel because I just hung out with him a bit. It was a very different film, clearly. Not Harvey Keitel in drag, but that was years ago, and before I knew what this film was. And I'd love to do a right thing for him, just not this one.
So how did you conceive of the granddaughter character that would be in this movie with her?
She just, when I sat down to write it, that was just the situation that this girl was showing up who was pregnant, who wanted to have an abortion, and didn't want to hang out with her grandmother that day, but who, as it turned out, I think that in terms of having it be a 70-something-year-old and an 18-year-old, and then being able to touch base with Marsha Gay Harden's character, I have over the years tried not to be a total imbecile and to learn to think in terms of women's history a little bit. And the idea really struck me that there's been an erasure in the minds of some young women of history. And it's, I think, coming around again, but the word feminism kind of got a bad name for, I'd say, 15, 20 years there, where it was meant to be not cool. And the sting in the tail of that is that this young woman doesn't have the vocabulary to stand up for herself in certain ways. So it was very purposeful for me. One of the most important things for me, for instance, when my daughter sees this, and I'd be okay actually with her seeing it now because she knows all the issues involved. She's 11, but the scene where there's the insult fest and then Sage says, well, my friends just call each other bitch, hoe, and slut, and do you think I'm one? And Lily says, no, I don't want to hear you use that word. That is the price that is paid for not having a sense of women's history in the younger generation. And I love the idea that I like things about mentoring because it's so clearly a two-way street. It was really, to me, while the film has issues in it, it's largely about sort of moving on from grief in terms of Elle's character.
Did you have as much, I guess backstory is the right word, for all of the characters Elle would meet in this day?
I didn't. I was kind of discovering as I went along, and I think the thing about, I finally gotten to a place where I could just show the tip of the iceberg with things, and also probably the fact that there was no, I think when there are people who are investing money, there's some feeling that everything has to be understandable, which ironically makes things nonsensical frequently. You have characters explaining where they come from, and it's one of the plagues of writing. I'm just not depth enough to do it, exposition in a way that's not obnoxious. And I think I've been expository at various points in the past, but there was no pressure on this one because I really was making this film not only with Lily kind of as my muse, but with her as my audience, because I knew that she knew so much about the history of this character that I had not lived through. And if she hadn't have dug this film, I would have, that's what would have been upsetting me.
Most of your films, I think, balance comedy and drama in some ways, and this one especially. Do you think of it in terms of two different elements, or is it more organic than that?
I only think of it in terms of two different elements. If I'm sitting in a theater with something that I think is funny that absolutely nobody laughs at, which it happens from time to time. I like the idea that those two things can be inextricable. There are some fairly broad things that happen here, and for instance, in terms of saying that Lily gave me the little girl who punches her, Lily, I was hanging out with her because I had months in which to. I don't think she still hasn't agreed to do the movie officially. I wrote it for her and I sprung it on her, and then I kind of had to twist her arm for a while, but we had months in which to go over the script, but also she was just shooting the breeze with me, and she told me that her partner, Jane Wagner, and they're married, but she still uses the word partner, they've been in Las Vegas one night, and there's a little girl walking along alone, like a 7-year-old girl, and Jane went over to her and said, "Hey, sweetheart, where are your parents?" And the girl punched her in the face. And she told me this, and I've been having a really hard time figuring out how to make that scene distinct. I I think you're asking about comedy and drama, and I segued into an anecdote. I don't know. I'm not sure I can tell the difference actually between comedy and drama, but I like the idea of the last thing that she says is "son of a bitch," and I like the idea that I wasn't anticipating this, but to me, that when Elle's character kind of gets a tiny bit weepy is when she's saying goodbye to her car, and then when she's actually saying goodbye to her love of her life, Violet, is in that cab alone, and she's laughing. I thought that was a really good acting lesson for me to observe. And as a directing lesson, it's like, I like to be loose by the time I get on the set, so that I don't have any preconception about how things are going to manifest themselves. And I thought that was really cool, you know, that in a way the most dramatic moment is the moment where she's got some private thing. I'm assuming Lily uses stuff from her life as an actress, and but I like that she was thinking about a joke that her partner had told her.
Could you have done a movie on this scale years ago, or did it have to come about now when filmmaking has become more democratized?
Well, I don't know about filmmaking. Well, certainly if filmmaking has become more democratized, yeah. As in terms of my skill set, I couldn't have done it because I also had learned, this is the 10th film I directed, and I've been learning at the expense of mostly Universal Studios, but sometimes more expensive than others. But I learned what I didn't need in terms of shots, and there was no wasted time on the set, and there was never any point where the actors were rushed. That was kind of what I'd come to, was the ability to not waste a lot of energy.